of this National Day of Mourning to draw the attention of the world in general towards the mass atrocities that have been happening in our society.
Okay, let me come to you, the coordinator, the state coordinator, Daniel Kwen. You may have to add something to that.
Thank you, Ben. So the idea of the National Day of Mourning was conceived in 2018. If you recall, in 2017, about that time, there was a surge in the violent conflicts all over the country. Here in Benue, like Dr. Vicky mentioned, we buried over 73, and then about 4 months later, we buried another 27 in Omusu, and these killings have continued unabated. As we speak currently, people can't go to farms. If you go to the Katsinala area, up to Zakibiam area, people cannot go to farm. So the idea came up as a result of as a response to particularly the killings that took place in Benue, because that was very massive. And so it started in 2018, and this one is the 7th edition of National Day of Mourning.
Okay, the one question, when I looked at this whole thing together, I was trying to piece them out and asking whether this day is still much relevant as it was in 7 years ago, considering the fact that federal government and state governments, all of them have given assurances that peace has returned. Recently, Defense made mention that they have actually dealt a big blow to the insurgency, banditry, and all of that. Of course, the state government, or the Benue state government, of course, have also made the assertion that peace has returned. Is this day still as relevant as it is 7 years ago?
Ben, I think it is even more relevant now than it was 7 years ago, because the relative peace that appears to be is deceptive. It is only in appearance. Take, for example, currently in Gwe West local government, along Makudi Naka Road, you can't move once it is 3-4 p.m. On daily basis, there are attacks. The difference in the mode is you no longer see people being attacked, communities attacked and killed in mass as it was happening then. But there are pockets of attack that are occurring on daily basis. So it is even more dangerous when they begin to go in stealthily and attack. So this is even more relevant now. And again, insecurity is becoming worse considering the hardship in the country. So you find more people indulging in criminality than it was 7 years ago.
Mrs. Daaor, you wanted to say something?
Well, I also agree with my coordinator that it is, if not, I'll say far more relevant now than ever before, because from 2018 till now, the killings have not abated, they've increased. Yes, maybe even the attacks on communities have not stopped. In the past 2 months in Benue, we have had reports of attacks in some local governments, maybe not on such a massive scale, but one life lost to any form of attack is as important. Okay, considering all this has ripple effects, considering the fact that, just like he mentioned, the Makudi Naka Road, you cannot move on that road. It's not just about between 3 and 4. Right now, it's just not safe going that way. The implication is that for people to get to Naka, you have to go round through Aliede, Taraku to get there. That is an increased cost on you, increased cost on the traveler. They're spending more money in an economy that people are already struggling with. And then I think even on your radio this morning, I heard of a bus attack, a Benue bus attack, but I didn't hear the full details, and some people were killed. The killings, are getting too much. It seems there's no week that passes that lives are not lost. We all need to sit up and see what can be done about this. You said peace. We've been hearing that peace has returned. There's something called negative peace, where the atmosphere just looks calm, but underneath it, there's a lot going on, So I believe that until we're able to talk about it and go to the root causes of our problems, we might just be beating about the bush.
Okay.
Let me just add 2 points. You see, if you take a look at the situation currently, I have a summary here of the mass atrocities tracking report. If you look at it from 2019 to 2023, in 2019, Benue recorded 167 deaths. The total across the country, at least it may not be accurate, but the ones that were reported and we documented, 469 deaths. And it continued in 2020, it was 145. This is Benue data I'm rolling out. Then in 2021, it increased to 502. It dropped in 2022 to 399, and in 2023, it rose again to 555. This is Benue data, and across the country to 1,600. If you look at the data we have, we recorded the highest deaths in 2023. If you turn around and look at the first quarter of 2024, we have recorded 1,216 killings, deaths
In the first
across the
quarter.
country. The first quarter of 2024.
Okay, across the country.
Yes, and 1,865 abductions. Now, in North Central, where we are, we recorded 520 killings and 249 abductions. And this is getting closer to us even in Makudi. Just a few weeks ago, the Angus Secondary School was shut down because there were attacks on the school.
And that's in the city.
Yes, right in the heart of Makudi. So it is even more necessary to engage in this advocacy, sensitization and awareness creation now than it were 7 years ago.
Okay, I'm so interested in your statistics there. I'll come to it much later if we have the time. But this day, National Day of Mourning, it's to commemorate, to remember those who are dead, right? And also to empathize with the victims of mass atrocities. But before I ask my question, just to remind our listener that this program is streaming live on www.agetradiotv.com, and you will go there and listen to us wherever you are. My question is, we can engage the dead people, right? They're dead, they're gone. We can only remember them. We can just celebrate, have their memory and celebrate them. How much are you doing in engaging those who are alive but are suffering from, perhaps suffered from the atrocities? Let me ask you, Mrs. Daaor.
Okay, maybe not as with the name community of practice. The community of practice is made up of different organizations, different individuals with interest in this area. There's a lot being done to offer psychosocial support and trauma healing to survivors of such attacks. If you go to the IDP camps, various organizations have spent some time offering this kind of support to the survivors. But I can tell you that a lot still needs to be done. No matter how much you go, most times you work based on the funds you have available. My organization has trained in 2022, the last part of 2022, with support from Victim Support Fund. We were able to train 30 first aiders, the psychological first aiders in the camp. So they are IDPs themselves, but who we were able to train with that capacity to offer at least basic psychological first aid to their community members. And I know that happened across 5 camps where we have IDPs. But if you look at it, 30 times 5, that's just about 150. It's not quite a large number, but if those 30 people are there in the camps regularly offering those services, it can help. But we are supposed to now go in for deeper engagements and therapy sessions. But all these things are fund related. You do as much as you can, but after a while it becomes very difficult to do. But quite a lot is going on. Even across the states, there's a lot going on. People are offering one form of service or the other to survivors of these attacks.
Okay, let me bring to the state coordinator. Dan, as I said, 2 things happen on this day. It's to also empathize with those who have suffered from the mass atrocities. And it's the organization also considering it has a way of looking at empathizing, how much they engage with those who are suffering from or who suffered the atrocities?
Well, like Dr. Daaor mentioned, there are interventions at individual organization level.
Okay.
But as a community of practice, we have been engaging in advocacy, especially to sensitize the people, create awareness, institutional memory, so that people don't forget that these atrocities did happen and are still happening. And then the second leg of it is to engage policymakers. As we speak, by 10 o'clock, there will be a press briefing in Abuja. Our colleagues who are in Abuja or have traveled to Abuja, or those who are able to join online, there is a press briefing that it's a world press briefing, and that is going to go out to the presidency and to the governors in the various states to call on them to act decisively to end the killings in the country. In the camps, for example, my organization just ended implementing a project that provided relief to victims of these attacks who are in camps. There's an extension of that intervention that is going to take place in about 2 weeks to provide relief and to see how temporary shelters can be created for them. At the level of the civil society, we cannot do more than providing these reliefs to the victims, because we do not have the machinery, the resources, and this time not financial resources, the state resources, the state power to be able to put the crisis to a stop.
Okay, just a few in one sentence each. When you engage with these persons who are perhaps in camps or wherever they're living, what challenges do they tell you they have?
There are various challenges. Number one challenge is hunger. Everyone who is in the camp has one challenge, primarily, that's hunger. Food supply in the camps, no matter how much food you provide, as long as you're not producing yourself, it cannot sustain you, because you continue to eat. As it comes, you eat. So hunger is number one problem. Shelter is not much of a problem, because even though they live in the camps, the shelter they have is not very good, but at least they have a place to lay their heads. So their second problem is their means of livelihood, because in the camp there's nothing they can do. They have lost entirely everything. They wake up, some people wake up in the camps and just sit from morning till night.
You want to say something?
Like to draw attention to the mental health challenges. I think a lot of times we forget about that. For me, it's very key. There's a sense of hopelessness amongst a lot of them. We carried out a rapid assessment recently in a few communities in 5 LGAs, and that was what came out of the report. That sense of hopelessness, not knowing where to go, what is going to happen very soon, or where they are even headed to. That sense of hopelessness is a very bad place for anybody to find himself. And so the implication is that we need to take the mental health of survivors, people in the camps, and even host community members, because it's not just, if you are not affected directly, you are still affected indirectly. Those who have to host these IDPs also face their own challenges. So when we design interventions and all that, we must remember the mental health component of it, something to inspire hope, something to reduce the hopelessness that they feel.
Another leg of this day is to demand accountability from stakeholders, government, and about the killings and those who are suffering from it. Begin to imagine, how do you demand accountability from those, from who precisely?
Well, Ben, it's obvious from government, because the primary responsibility of government is the protection of life and well-being of the people and property. So only government has, and in this context, federal government, because the state government do not control the security structures of our country. So only the federal government can weigh in the matter. So yes, it may not be very productive, but it is better to continue to engage and sensitize and advocate.
What form of engagement are you having with government?
Currently, like I mentioned, the press briefing.
Okay, that's fine. Because
we also roll out data, because sometimes when you are on that seat in government as a president, for example, you don't get to know everything. There's a lot of information, especially security classified information, that is at the disposal of a president. But sometimes information like the ones that touch on the reality of the situation with the people do not get to them. So when we roll out this data and we continue to escalate the situation, eventually it touches and gets to the right channels.
Dr. Mrs. Daaor, I have been missing my own opinion. What is the social impact or socio-economic impact of these atrocities to individuals, families, and individuals and families?
I started trying to point out some of them. Let's start from the people who are displaced now by virtue of the attacks. Let's leave those who have died. The ones they left behind, they say when you die, your troubles end, right? But the people you left behind, sometimes breadwinners are killed. They are suddenly thrown into a state of confusion where they didn't plan for. Their economic status changes. The means of livelihood is no longer there. Okay, they've now been displaced and they are moved to another community. You lose your source of livelihood. Mentally, you are not sound. You need to make a lot of adjustments to your life. And I dare say that these atrocities affect you and I differently. Like I said, if I have to travel now, your plans for traveling are no longer the way we used to plan before. You could just plan to leave Makudi at about 2 before and still say I can get to wherever I'm going to. But as it is now, you have to plan earlier. You have to make more resources available because you don't want your family to go. I know of a family that having to travel home for Christmas, they couldn't use one vehicle for security reasons. They have to split the family into 2 vehicles. So with the assumption that though we don't pray for it, but if anything happens, the whole family should not be wiped out in one vehicle. So you see, everybody is making adjustments. And then economically, our economy is tightening up. There's increased crime rates. There's increase in abductions. Our children are becoming breadwinners of their families. People are not asking them questions. They are doing different things to bring money home to feed the family, which means that they are also probably involved in crime. And as the crime rate is increasing, insecurity is also increasing.
Okay.
We've had cases of children arranging the kidnap of their own parents. That was unheard of before. Okay. But it is where we are going to gradually as a country. Okay. And I think it's something that we need to sit up and look at.
When you say breadwinner, I was also thinking of the word you said, negative breadwinners.
Yes, because they are still winning bread.
Of course. So, all right, that's just I just borrowed your word. But let's come to the crux of the matter here. What are your 2 questions in one? I'll ask you, the state coordinator. You tell me what are your demands for this day, and what are the activities that are you're going to roll out for this day.
The demands are just 2. 1, government should end the killings and prosecute the perpetrators. I'm very sure. I'm very sure that some of the perpetrators can be identified. There have been reports in the media, but we have not heard of prosecution of anyone who has been arrested for indulging in the violent crimes that we're experiencing in the country today. So we're asking government to hold people accountable. Ending the killings will also, for example, in Benue, where we have a large pool of IDPs, resettling them back in their communities so that they will be able to carry on with their normal lives. These are the demands. Then, the activities. We are hosting this radio program here. One just finished at King Radio. Two of our colleagues were there. And from here, we are heading to the small gate to the State Secretariat to process in a peaceful and solemn procession to mourn the dead and to identify with the survivors. It's a very short walk from that gate to the frontage of Jestaka Foundation. When we get there, we'll pray for the dead, make some speeches, and call on government to intervene. By 12 noon today, we call on all Nigerians to observe a 1-minute silence to mourn the dead. And then there's a press conference going on in Abuja by 10.
Okay. Dr. Daaor, let me ask you this question. This day, my research, I don't know whether my research is good, but I vividly did. I'm not sure whether this day is being recognized by government. So what are you doing that government should recognize this day?
I think part of the press conference that will take place in Abuja today, those will be part of the demands. You know, for the government to recognize a day, it takes a process, but I believe that it will eventually be recognized. But before then, we do our bits and just keep sensitizing people. The more people are aware of it, the more the government understands the importance of setting aside a day to, it's a part of our history. Setting aside a day to mourn these people and to draw attention to it, even from the international community. I believe that they will eventually get to that point.
I'm not sure government is listening to you.
They will listen eventually. There are different ways of getting to government, you see. That's why we're holding that press briefing.
Yeah.
It's to go out across the nation, and then a lot of reports of the things we do will go up online. We keep sending
including this one.
Including this one. So we're hopeful that eventually it will get to the right quarters, and of course we'll pay advocacy visits to the right people, because these matters are matters of legislation, so we need to get the right people involved, the people who have the power to do what we expect them to do.
So Dan Kwen, let's look at it beyond just maybe looking at the federal government. You also have representatives from the state. How much are you engaging them to make sure that they take your voice or your voices as a group to that place?
Well, in 2017, the Open Grazing Prohibition and Ranches Establishment Law was established. The civil society, she was there, I was there, led that process, of bringing about that law. These are the kind of engagements that we have been advocating and advancing. So we have not engaged the current government, but after this program, we intend to put down a policy paper and advocacy paper and present to the government. However, the focus for this intervention is more at the national level, because we are looking at a national legislation that will deal with the matter at the top and then trickle down to the states.
Okay, because we just have 2 more minutes to go, and perhaps the program is just an awareness program, National Day of Mourning, which is marked every year, May 28th, and we are about to finish, but just to ask you both one question. How satisfied or dissatisfied are you with efforts of government to end the killings in the land? I'll start with you, Dr. Daaor.
I think there's still a lot left to be done. I think the issues around ending the killings go far beyond what we see. I think that government still has a huge role to play. Security is the duty first and foremost of government. Yes, everybody has a part to play, but government has to create that enabling environment for things to thrive. And when there's insecurity, that cannot happen. I believe personally that this government is doing something about it, but the sooner the better. And I think the efforts need to be more concerted. We need to and then there has to be a collaboration between the federal government and the state government and all security agencies. I don't believe that as a state, Benue, we can just end the crisis on our own. We need collaboration with all other security agencies and the federal government to push this forward.
Are you satisfied or dissatisfied?
I'm not satisfied, definitely not.
Okay, Dan Kwen.
No, but obviously I'm not satisfied. But I'm aware that the government is taking some steps in addressing the situation. Like she mentioned, how soon that may happen is what we don't know. But recently, the president met with the governors and to discuss the insecurity in the country. And we know that matters of security are not necessarily thrown in the open. So we cannot say precisely what government is doing.
Okay. We're out of time anyway, but I'll just give you this privilege to, in few seconds, 30 each, 30 seconds making a minute, just give me your concluding thoughts. Start with you, the State Coordinator, Dan Kwen.
Well, for me, all hands have to be on deck. The government only leads in provision of security, but every other person must be security conscious. Our people are not security conscious, and that has also added to the escalation of the situation.
Dr. Mrs. Daaor, 30 seconds.
I just want everybody around the state, everybody who is hearing this, to please just observe that 1 minute silence at 12 noon. It won't take much from us, just a minute to pray for those who have gone and to also pray for our country and ask that peace comes to our country.
I most sincerely thank you, Daniel Kwen, State Coordinator, Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities in Nigeria, and Dr. Victoria Daaor, Member, Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities in Nigeria and Executive Director, Elohim Development Foundation. I thank you sincerely for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Gutsav, and see you next time. Of course, continue enjoying iGate Radio. Bye for now.